the first thing, and we're going to go through rebase in two ways, a clean rebase and a dirty rebase is kind of what I call it. So let me get back over to this project. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clone it from the perspective of the person who made this pull request. So I'm going to go, that's not it, I'm going to go in here and get their URL for their clone URL. And I'm going to come into my command line, I'm going to do a git clone and grab their branch. Now, one mistake, common mistake, is to do work on master when you make a fork. Don't do this. It becomes confusing primarily for you, right? So what you want to do is you want to do a git checkout -b when you first start, and then give it a name that kind of makes sense to the work that you're trying to do. So in this case, we would have called it symlink check. Now, because this got a little bit messed up, which makes it a great example for showing both a clean rebase and a dirty rebase, I'm going to go back to where things were simplest and fairly complete, which was this commit right here, the very first time that they opened the pull request. And I'm going to check out that commit, and I'm going to call it symlink check. So now I'm effectively, if we look at git log, and git log goes from most recent to oldest. And this is important to remember. Here we can see added unsafe flag, and then down, 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 down. We see this person's name over and over again until we get to the one that is not their name. Added commented out symlink check. So if we look at that, there's the newest one. This is reverse order. So here newest is on bottom and oldest is up top. But that's their range of commits. So I'm going to say what we want to do first is do a squash. And the reason we want to do the squash first is because we want to know if this has a prayer of rebasing cleanly or not. So I'm going to look at the git log again, and I'm going to go to the commit that is just prior to the block of commits that are in question. So here is Bytecook, and then here is Fergus. So we actually want to take this commit right here, and we're going to do git rebase -i, and then that commit. And it's going to start the rebase after the commit that you choose. Another way to do this would be to do something like head -10, which says just rebase the last 10 commits. So if you want to be less specific and just kind of ballpark it, you can do it that way. It'll open up with the last 10 commits. If we want to get specific, which in this case I do, we can paste in the prior commit of the one that we're interested in, and it brings all that in. So what I want to do here is squash. So I'm going to select everything, and it's all of these are very similar. All of these are related to the same feature. So these are what I call junk commits or trial and error commits. And that's not to be derogatory. It just means because, you're trying stuff out, you commit something, you check and see if it works, you go take a lunch break, so you commit. And, so you end up with a lot of commits that are very similar in what they're called. And they don't really, have a lot of value in of themselves. They're only value when you group them together. And so that's why we squash, is we don't want to bloat the commit history with 9 different messages that are all similar and kind of unclear as to what they accomplish as an end goal. So I'm going to go ahead and change all of these picks after the first one into a squash. And what that means is it's going to use that commit, but it's only going to make one point in the history. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And if I quit out of this, right, and quit out of this, if it comes up with an error, then it's not, in of itself, it's not clean. Something is wrong, which normally is not the case. So it says, all right, you're squashing all of these. What do you want the commit messages to be? Well, I don't need all of these commit messages. It would be fine to say just have maybe these 2. So we're going to say for all of the commits that I'm squashing, whoops, let me go back to that. I'm just going to take this one at the top, and I'm going to leave the rest out. So, and I'm also going to reword it. Add symlink check. Let's call it add evil symlink check. That is sufficient. So now if I do a git log, we can see there's the commit from Fergus, and then we've got our our commit that's important has been squashed down to just one commit. So if I had multiple blocks, say I had 3 commits related to one thing, 3 commits related to another thing, I might want to pick one commit, squash 2 or 3, pick another commit, squash 2 or 3, etc. Now another thing that you might want to do is I'm gonna run this same command again. Whoops. I'm gonna run the same command again. Now there's only one commit here. I might want to reword it. If I didn't feel like that wording was right for what that commit now describes, because when you squash, you lose some detail. So when you squash, generally it asks you, what do you want the commit message to be, and you've got the option to put that in there first. But if I wanted to, I could reword this. And so, yeah, that would just pop up and ask me, well, what do you want to rename it to? And actually, I don't want to rename it. I'm just going to leave it as it is. Okay. So at this point, I've squashed. Now this is good because now it's gonna make it easy for me to rebase. So what I'll do is I will actually do git pull -- rebase. Oh, you know what I need to do first? So I'm on the fork and I need to rebase from the original. So I'm going to do a git pull -- no. Do I want to do it that way? Yeah, I do want to do it that way. I'm just going to do it this way. Git pull -- rebase. I'm going to paste in the URL and then say master. And then we did get a conflict. So let me take a look at what the conflict is. Both files were modified. Now, it's likely that this conflict isn't bad because at least in of itself, my bunch of commits were clean. So unless somebody was working on the same lines that I was working on or changing the same functions that I was changing, this shouldn't be a big deal. And when we open it up, let me go up to the top, I'm going to search for the arrows, which are indicative of where a conflict is. And what we can see here is that in the master branch, someone added another feature that was for specify file type. And then I added a feature, well, Bytecode added a feature for unsafe. And basically it's just saying which one is supposed to go on top, because both branches added a new line right here, which one should go on top. And I'm going to say, it doesn't matter. I'll just leave it as is. And then I'm going to search down for the next big grouping of bracket arrows there. And then here we have the same thing. It's not even really a conflict. It's just 2 things both got added to the end. Which one do we want to pick? All right, and then I'm going to search again, and there's nothing else. So that was it. That was the whole of our supposed conflict. So now if we do a git diff on that, you can see nothing scary there. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to do a git add on this, and then I'm going to do a git rebase continue. So let me bring that back up to the top there so you can see easily. So git rebase -- continue. And when I do that, it's going to finish applying whatever commits. And in this case, there were no more conflicts. Everything went very smooth from that point. So if I look at the history, now, whereas before Fergus was the commit prior, in master, these other features have already been merged in. And so now Steven is the commit prior. And so now we still sit up here as the newest. Now remember, when you look at it git log, it's from newest to oldest. When you're looking at git rebase, it's from oldest down to newest. So just keep that in mind so that you don't get confused. So this is clean. It's been squashed and it's been rebased. If I were ready, then what I would do is git push -- force. And the reason I have to do a force is that it's rewritten the commit history to be in feature order rather than chronological order. So just like what we were looking at over here, it's not trying to just say, okay, well, there's this thing, and we're just going to call the result of it this new dot. That's what a merge would do. Instead, it's saying, well, some yellow things happened on Tuesday, and I committed some code on Wednesday, but we actually, and I committed some code on Monday, but we actually want the code I committed on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to come after what was committed in master on Wednesday. So that's what it's doing there. That force is going to allow it to overwrite basically the order of the dots. And then I would have called this feature branch symlink check. So if I'm ready for it, I'd do that. And if I had done that, then what we would see here is that all of these commits would go away and they'd be replaced with just the one. And the information would be the same, but the commits would be, it would squash them and it would rebase them onto the current master. Now, one other thing, just as kind of a side note, normally people like it when you run a code formatting tool before you push things up. So in the case of Go, that's Go format. Many projects use prettier. So you do something like this. In this case, I'm not going to worry about it. What I should do here, and this is acceptable to make like a second commit for this. I could squash this out. I could not squash this out. Now, if we look at my history, I've got a Go format and a evil symlink check. If I want to be really pretty about things, then I'd come back and I'd just squash my formatting commit out of the way, because my formatting commit technically should just be part of my normal commit. So I'll go ahead and I'll squash that. And then we don't need to know that, I ran the formatting tool, because that's just, normal everyday stuff. Okay, so this is what I would do, but we can't run it because I'm not actually the owner of that branch. Now we're going to look, that was clean. That worked well.